We are for 40,000 households, and we are built on the success, and we are the successor of the BHPS, who are a very small number of households. We include the remaining members of this panel who wanted to be in it, and we then have made it up to these 40,000 households. We occasionally, and last year we put in an ethnic minority boost as well. So we have 6 published waves so far out there, and we also have an innovation panel which runs once a year. In terms of people talking about complex questionnaires, I think ours is fairly complex. I'm not sure how easy it is to manipulate once you get it into Closer, but 100 or so modules. They swap in and they swap out then, because we are limited by time I can't remember the exact amount of time that every interview has to take, but so this decides. Often we have rotations of modules and things, so not every module is asked at every wave, but it's longitudinal, so the idea is that people pick it up and get the trends. And the resulting data sets, yes, wave 6, 3,600 of variables, split into different files, and they're distributed by the UK Data Service. So, and we distribute them in various formats, I think, but they take care of that for us. As has been said, we're quite a new study, so relatively. So we have all of our questionnaires were put together in a product, an in-house product called QSL, which is it's an XML representation of the questionnaires, and there's various. Oh no, there's no tooling actually. It's horrible. The people who use it hate it. They have to write this thing in a notepad editor basically, and they have to write XML in just a plain text editor. And they're really, really hoping we get rid of it very soon. And this they build up all different modules, and then this is all this lovely computerized questionnaire then gets turned into a PDF and sent on a piece of paper to the fieldwork agency, who then recode it up into dimensions. So there's a great problem there in that we do it all computerized and then give them a piece of paper. So this is one of the things about automation and everyone using the same sort of, and where DDI would come in very well for us, because DDI would replace this horrible product QSL. So from our point of view, the fact that Closer is using DDI, and if we are very likely to go to DDI for our questionnaires, this would make a lot of automation possible, and we would lose this layer that we don't have. So from our own perspective, in terms of time saving and money saving, that's very good. We've seen this several times today. Yes, I know Discovery is deployed on Collectica Portal, and there we go. And all behind of this is sitting in DDI, which we like. We don't like looking at it, but we like what it does for us. Advantages of Closer and Discovery are they publicise the study. This is very good. Our paymasters, the ESRC, always want us to provide more impact and more evidence that we're doing good, so they keep paying our salaries and providing more waves. And so any form of extra publicity, extra users, because we figure that also we'll get more users and a more diverse range of users from people using Closer, because they might come across our questions and our questionnaires in ways that, and they wouldn't necessarily thought of us as their first place to go. So this is all good. And the fact is, equally, people from our own studies who want to become our own sort of users and researchers will go off and probably find useful information in the other studies as well. So it works both ways. The reason I mentioned Collectica Portal here is purely a selfish one, because if you do adopt DDI and if you take on Collectica as a company, a commercial company that work with, use DDI, and if you were to take on some of their software and some of their tooling, you get this product portal for free, which is a way of expressing your DDI on a web interface. And it looks quite similar, I'm guessing, to the closed one. It's the same technology in the background. Yes. So even in-house, you can just sort of point it at your own collection of DDI and your own set of information. So that's quite good. Now for us, there we go. I've lifted this out of your website. Biggest challenge of the project. Topic mapping, there's a lady who does our topic mapping and our mapping of all the variables, and she doesn't enjoy doing it, but this is one of the main benefits of having the search engine that covers all of these different studies. We used to have, on our British Household Panel Survey, a set of index terms. It's like a mini thesaurus, but this wasn't carried across into understanding society, and it's one of the big areas that lots of users who we're trying to still migrate our users from BHPS to Understanding Society say we miss this feature. We really miss having the index terms, the thesaurus. Why can't we have it back on on Understanding Society? Well, this is where your topic mappings and everything come in. So it's very useful for us to do this as well. It does. I'm going to throw a question out here. Are there any plans to allow us to have more than one topic?
No, but there are many requests.
There we go. Okay. That would be good for some people. Obviously, it means mapping and it means putting more effort into it as well. So, you know, but yes. And there used to be a product. It's probably not worth saying too much about this because there used to be a product and it's no longer there. It's a mapper. So, yes. So Mapper used to be what was used for us to apply our topic mappings, and this has now been replaced as part of the Archivist tool quite recently. Mapper was, term by term, it was quite slow. The best way to it was bulk loading, and that's how we found. I think there was some issues we had where we had to keep sort of getting it reset. Is that right? But we haven't actually done any more mapping recently with the new version in Archivist, so I'm hoping for good things there. And an internal issue we have is where's the expert? We've got 3,600 variables, and we want to say, you know, we can guess lots of them, but say, you know, what topic would you like to apply to this? But just internally finding someone to actually necessarily say, well, this obviously it goes under this category. It is just an internal issue which you may or may not have as well in your own studies. Archivist, talked about it briefly. It's lovely, it looks great, and it's I think it's pretty user friendly. It's pretty easy to find your way around. You have to get used to some of the little symbols, and the support's good. If ever I have to email anyone, Hayley or anything, they're very good at getting back to me. Verification I found quite challenging. This is purely because from how I'm looking at it, when it might not be, if you're using it yourself day to day, it might not be the same problem we've had, but because of our questionnaires we're putting in an electronic format, so then the verification for us was very much just, seeing this for the first time and working through the PDFs or similar sort of output, comparing it with this, and the way the routing works, because we go down about 5 or 6 layers, I suppose, in routing in various places. Archivist works from the top down, but when you're looking at sort of traditional questionnaire questions, you read the question, the responses, and then at the bottom is the piece about the routing. So you're sort of having to work from the top there and from the bottom up there, and it becomes quite. Personally, this took me a while to get my head around, but if you've got people doing this, then they will get used to using it. The wiki, as has been mentioned several times, is brilliant. Great source of help and information, and yeah, it's great. What else have we got about Archivist? I think we were the last study to be integrated. This was probably I can't think when this was, a year ago maybe, something like that. Yeah, and I think this was left to the end, or one of the reasons was because we had machine readable information for every wave. So I believe, because we didn't have a lot to do with this, because the closer guys, you did it pretty much all for us, so, well, all of it. So some sort of translations to get the QSL into DDI, because they're similar. This is great, and this is another reason where if you can get things in the machine readable format, it will aid greatly you getting information into discovery. Our goal would be to, and this is more of a goal of understanding society in general, is to basically go to DDI completely and have no conversions, and not just for closer. Then we got the interoperability opportunities and time savings, money savings, everything else that goes along with that. Right, there's two sides of getting the information into closer. There's all the questionnaires, and there's the frequency information. That's really quite simple. When you've got your summary information, whatever you've got this in, whether it's Stata or SPSS, I don't think it really matters. There's a tool that you can use called Sledgehammer, which is lovely at just ripping through data files and pulling out various statistics, and so this is how you get all the lovely frequency information into closer. That's really simple. The only thing I would add to that is when you're doing it, it's always useful to read the docs. When I was going through and looking at what we've actually got in Discover the other day, I've noticed that lots of our data sets say things like US1_dataset3 for. It's not helpful, so I'm going to have to re-sledgehammer all of our data because it would be useful if you're looking at a question to be childcare for it to say this comes from the data set, wave 1 childcare, as opposed to US1 data file 1. So once again, this is just a question of that's a question of getting used to the information, getting used to the processes, and not just running them without actually realizing what you're doing, which is I think what we did. We just said, okay, we've got 13 data sets to produce for this wave. Let's just number them 1 to 13 as we push this data out, not realizing, of course, that's exactly what it's going to look like when it goes up onto the portal. So, but that's a fairly trivial thing for us to put right, and that's very quick. Training, yes, training. Hayley came and did some lovely training, not just for us, for the data service as well, about a month ago. That explained a lot of the mysteries of using Archivist. I say it's not mysteries, it's just it's more like convention and ways to do things. You can use the tool, but you won't necessarily use the tool in a consistent way across the waves, and that's one of the things we want to do with waves, keep them consistent. Closer's consistency isn't quite the same as our consistency in our study, so we do have some, I don't know, I was talking to Will earlier, I'm not sure whether we can do anything about that, because I know there's naming conventions that you use with questions and things, everything's prefixed in Closer, and I don't know if that's something that we should be adopting, or whether we can somehow do that in the loading phase. So we will find that out quite soon. The wiki's useful. Again, I think I've mentioned that at every stage. Feedback, yes, okay. As I mentioned earlier, if you've got any questions, the Closer team will get back to you very quickly. They're very good. They publish newsletters as well every few months. They're quite nice, they're quite useful. It's always good to feel that something's happening behind the scenes and keeping up to date. And like today, it's a useful networking and a community. Not directly related to closer discovery. Some of the other closer streams have done other technology reviews and things like that that I've been involved in, and it's great. You get to meet people you wouldn't otherwise meet who are sharing the same problems and have the same legacy software they'd love to kick into touch and things like that. So I've benefited quite a bit from that in the time I've been working on this. Because we all have the same issues around the same areas. This slide, the future. Yeah, okay, our future. This is what I think from understanding society and our future. We have a survey at the moment that was done in, I think, wave 2, and we're on wave 6, but it was done on paper. And it was a subset. It was some biometric type questions. Fairly small survey. We've now got to try and get this into Archivist. This will be our first foray into actually inputting our own questionnaire into Archivist. We've had the training now. We've got someone who's going to start this probably in the next week or so. And this is going to be an interesting exercise to actually see how. You know, I look at Hayley's slides here on how long each question takes to put in. So I've got to sell this to the person who's going to do it. But the idea is, if we do this, then we've got to get a questionnaire for wave 6 in, and then once a year we've got to get a new questionnaire, a new wave into Closer. It should become part of business as usual. This is how it's got to work, or else it will get forgotten about. We have a project plan for every wave. Part of that project plan is going to have to be integrate the survey into Closer. We're not there yet. This is the first step. Get this one in, and then work out how we're going to do that. Keeping up to date. This is fine. This is, I suppose, this is more that people in Closer have to buy into Closer and keep it going. So if we're putting wave 6 in, then the other studies have to keep putting their waves in, so it keeps relevant across all of the participants. And we are as much not as much to blame, because we've at wave 6 we haven't got around to doing yet. But if we don't do it, we're going to fall behind. And this is what Hayley was saying as well. You've got to keep it going. You've got to keep putting it in, because the longer you leave it, you will just give yourself problems for the future when ideally you get all this stuff now into some interchangeable format. So it's a good discipline. And as Hayley has said, yes, again, this is another side. I'm just, I suppose, making the point that the two-people system is this is how I think we should be doing it where we are as well. You've got to really have someone entering it. We can't just let one person do it and think that's done, and satisfactory should go out. So we do have to have a second set of eyes and a second person to verify it. So it's an investment. It's a time investment to do it, but you only have to do it once. And whereas we're going to suffer now because we've got to put this one in by hand. All of our future waves are in this QSL language, and ideally will end up being in DDI. And so what we want to be to the point of is that we don't do stuff twice. We don't put our own documentation out, and we don't set up a whole separate stream of work for Closer. We just do it once, and it will feed Closer, and then we will have our own web presence as well. So we will have a time saving there. Yeah, because Archivist, can we bulk load DDI into Archivist yet? Is that coming? Yes. We can. Haven't. Okay. So the overhead there isn't a huge amount of overhead as long as you can somehow get it machine readable. And the only and then I've written Collectica at the bottom, because Collectica, once again, we're going to be investing in some Collectica software, Understanding Society, to try and not for Closer, But one of the nice side effects of having the Collectica software is that we will benefit from producing native DDI out the back. So, and this will obviously help us with putting stuff into Closer. There we go. That was the end of my slides. I didn't really do a conclusion slide. So, we haven't actually got to do that much to get our information into Closer. We just have to. It's all about the formatting of your questionnaires, really, and in terms of moving forward, everything being machine actionable and standardized can only be good for the whole questionnaire and social science businesses, really. It's hard to. It's hard. I find it hard because I think that questionnaire entry and the routing rules are still way behind. We have metadata, we have DDI, and everything. It all marks everything up lovely. But in terms of actual software to actually put questionnaires together, I think that's still a bit behind and a bit lacking. I don't know what the answer is to that. So at the moment, the best we have is to mark stuff up in DDI. But the big but we are still also not hampered, but we do have to have this step where we still have to take all of our questionnaires that we mark up in whatever technology we're using and then give it as a paper questionnaire to the survey agency. And that's got to change, I think, at some point. And for us, that hasn't changed yet. Because that's just a missing link, and that's just personal.